always something to talk about. Here we are at King's Restaurant, of course, in Tamuning. This is our spot. This is our fruit. This is our cut and pica. Real Admiral Shoshana Chatfield is ordering cut and pica. For some reason, I didn't know that that was like something you would enjoy.
Absolutely.
Have you like acquired a taste for like the cuisine of the region since you've been here?
I have, and I have to really kind of watch it like everyone else. You can't eat everything you want every day.
Yeah.
And so I have to be very disciplined, or I tell you, I would have fried chicken
and red rice and Kelliguen for
4
breakfast.
5 times a week.
Yeah.
And I just I have
You
to
can't
be a
do
little
it.
bit more disciplined.
No, all of us can, and King's is the hardest place because we come here once a week, and it's like, what do you want on the menu? And you know, I never tried this though. My producer's tried it, and he said it's really good. So I'm gonna have to take his word for it and try it one of these days. But thank you for coming. You're like one of the busiest humans in this region, it would seem, right?
Yeah, I think everybody is working hard.
Yeah.
Particularly the folks that are stationed here on Guam. We're all working hard, but I have some responsibilities that take me back and forth to Washington, to Hawaii, to some other places. I was recently in the Federated States of Micronesia, and I'm happy to be here today with you.
Thank
right
you.
here at King's.
Yeah, the fact that you had some time. I just asked her right before we started. I said, I was on a plane in February, and I asked some blanket questions like, were you on a flight in February? She's like, probably, most likely. Your business, the work that you're doing in the region, takes you to constant communication with the Pacific Fleet in Hawaii, you said, and over in Washington, D.C. Can we translate the frequency of your travel to the frequency of the activity that's happening in this area?
I think that's a good way to state it, and I think also the interest that my superior commanders have in this area also is an indicator by my travels.
Yeah.
So I do work for the Pacific Fleet Commander. Pacific Fleet Commander is the owner of the MERC, the Mariana Island Range Complex, and on behalf of Compact Fleet then, we do the scheduling and deconfliction in that range. But Indo-PACOM, the commander of Indo-PACOM, is keenly interested in this region and the stability and security of Guam, the Northern Mariana Islands, and the Compact States. Because the health, the economic viability, the overall security is really vital to the Indo-PACOM strategy, which is to make sure that we have a free and open area here where people can conduct commerce, where states can act in their sovereign interests, and where like-minded states can come together in partnership to do the kinds of work that we must do to be ready to, respond to natural disasters and those types of things.
Is it more important now than it ever has been in the history of the defense of Guam to engage the leaders of these areas in the region where we usually don't ever really talk about, you know, like you say, in the FSM, you know, the Republic of Marshall Islands, you know, Palau. Is it necessary to have them understand what's happening in this region in order for them to sign on for what's happening in this region?
Well, I think, well, yes.
Yeah.
It's always important for us to have an open and transparent dialogue. And the reason I say that is because I think leaders now are more inundated with information than they ever have been. So is the public inundated with information. And so being open and transparent in what we're doing and why we're doing it is very important. We also have some obligations. So for example, with the Compacts of Free Association, those freely associated states have a defense guarantee from the United States of America under Title III of the Compact. And so we engage with them quite regularly, and we formally engage with them at least once a year in a joint committee meeting. And their government comes and meets with our representatives, members of our government, members of Indo-PACOM, and we come together and have working groups to understand what the security concerns are and how we might address them.
I'm glad to hear you say that the transparency and communication has to be open and it has to be very transparent. Because you know, in this area and in past years, it's been a lot more difficult to get the communication lines open. And so I wonder, from your perspective, how you are able to be, in full communication and transparent, while also preserving, the security of the area and not breaching any of our defense strategies.
Well, fortunately, I have a long experience in the military. So it's 31 years I've been serving. And so I do understand where the lines are with things that are in the open press, and then things that are matters of national security that must be kept more sensitive and more tightly controlled. But walking through what is happening is always a good idea with members of the local government, and that's what we try to do.
It's been a lot more difficult, though, it would seem, with some of the communication, because as much as you can be out there, there's also things that can't be spoken of, and leaves up for grabs public speculation, which I've always said is far more dangerous than the truth sometimes. But there's also a little bit of pushback, a lot of pushback still from the community. We're still dealing with people in this community that are not completely signed on, and I think that that's also a very difficult place to be when we've come so far with the PA. We've come so far with communicating what is going to be happening with the military buildup. That there are some late conversation after the fact.
Yeah, and I think part of that comes from the availability of the documents, but also the complexity of the documents. So if you pull down something and it's 800 pages,
Yeah.
I mean,
Not likely to read it over dinner,
well,
right?
not likely to read it over dinner. Maybe if you have some insomnia, you want to read it before you go to bed.
Right.
But there are things that I read that are absolutely fascinating because they're in my business. And with my 31 years of experience and my understanding of how the Department of Defense is organized and what the roles are of the geographic combatant commanders and the components that are in Hawaii, and then the regulations that we have and the authorities that we have, those are all things that have taken me quite some time to really become familiar with. So when you take something like an environmental impact statement, it's very complicated, and there's very technical language in it, and it's very long. And so you get the idea that, hey, does anybody actually understand this? And I'm really fortunate because I have this fantastic group of environmental employees with expertise in environmental. And they come in my office, I get these comprehensive briefs, I ask all these questions, and they must be tired of me by now because I'm asking questions
You
all
have
the
to
time.
be thorough enough to understand it, though, right?
That's right. And I would just say this, I don't mind being held accountable. I have authorities to do the things that I do, but I have responsibilities. I mean, under the programmatic agreement, for example, it's very clearly delineated what I must do, what I'm accountable for. And so to the extent that somebody finds out, hey, she's accountable for this, and then asks me the question, are you doing this? That is a wonderful question. It reminds me how important things are. It reminds me to ask questions of my own employees who are dedicated to getting those things done, but it kind of closes the loop. So when you say that we have people who are coming maybe after the fact or to review documents that have already been signed, okay, I don't have any problem with that.
But nothing can be changed, though, necessarily, or is there still room for that?
There are protocols for consultation, and we do consult every year on the programmatic agreement. And we also do have protocols for example, for data recovery in case we encounter something, a cultural resource, for example, in our construction activities. We know exactly what we must do. And that's all delineated in those protocols.
Yeah. Before we move on to the next topic, because we also have to take a break, and I want to kind of lighten it up on the second segment of this. Just a final thought about this: do you think it takes a particular person with some, a combination of, and compassion and education and intellect and military expertise to confront issues like this when they're in a jurisdiction where you don't get a lot of pushback on a mainland, for example, on issues between the military and the community, because, for a lot of reasons. But on Guam, it's a unique scenario.
I think that is an assumption that's made frequently here in this community, but I don't find it to be true in my experience. So I've been stationed in California. I've worked out of Washington State, and I have seen a lot of communities ask questions. Questions about noise, questions about environmental impacts. We have areas off the coast and on the coast of California where we must be very careful, where the community is quite engaged. From everything from aircraft noise to preservation of endangered species. I can remember using my helicopter one time out at San Clemente Island, an area where we had an endangered species, to assist Fish and Wildlife in setting up a monitoring station for one of those species. So I would just say it feels like this is the only place, but maybe because the experience is limited to this place. But if you go to Whidbey Island, Washington, or if you go to California, you see that we have interest taken in our effects on the environment in all of these places.
And anywhere you go. Yeah.
And I think that there's another expectation or a perception on Guam that Guam isn't receiving as many resources as they should. But from the Navy, at least, Guam is an area where we apply significant resources compared to other places. So I think there's a mismatch in the perception versus what in my experience tells me has happened in other locations, because there are quite a few locations in continental United States as well as here on Guam, in the Commonwealth of Northern Mariana Islands, and other places where communities are holding the military accountable for the types of agreements that are already in place and the ones that we would like to make in the future.
Good to know. Good explanation. And I tell you what, we're going to take a quick break here. When we come back, more of our conversation. Rear Admiral Shoshana Chatfield, I guess, today here on Something to Talk About. We'll be right back. Thank you and welcome back to Something to Talk About. Rear Admiral Shoshana Chatfield. All right, so we had a little heavier of a segment than I expected. The conversation just went there. I have to ask you now, you are originally from where?
Garden Grove, California.
Garden Grove, California. You're a California girl. Yeah.
Yeah.
You look like a California girl. Now that you've said that, you look like a California girl. So coming to Guam, and enjoying just the sort of tropics and the culture of an island, not foreign to you necessarily, being near beaches, being in a beach community kind of thing.
Being in a beach community is definitely, it feels like home.
Yeah.
I just did want to point out that this is kind of coming back to Guam.
Yeah.
Because I served here
right.
from 2004 to 2006 up at Anderson Air Force Base. I was the commanding officer of HSC 25.
Right, that's right. I forgot about that. That's up there in the far corners of Anderson Air Force Base. If you've not been up there, it's closer to sort of the entrance of Taragi. That's an area that we don't ever really see anymore. HSC 25 Squadron is crucial to the operation out here. They've done a lot of things for the community. That was probably a pretty good gig up there during that time. There's a lot of action.
It's a lot of action, very rewarding.
Yeah.
We were there actually when the tsunami hit over in Thailand.
Yeah, okay.
And so we had to find resources enough to put more people on ships to go and respond to that.
As a mission. That was one of the missions.
That's one of the missions, yeah.
So I got to ask you, being a beach girl and everything, the joke around is there's the Shoshana, Joint Region Marianas commander, and then there's Beach Shoshana.
It wasn't me.
I just want you to know I went to bat for you on the next morning. I was like, there's no way that this woman could be of this caliber and then want to pick a fight on a beach. I mean, that's just not your thing.
No,
but it went around.
I don't like to be actually out in my swimsuit, but if you want to see me in my swimsuit, sign up for the Cocos Crossing, because I'll be doing it for the 6th time
Wow.
in my life this year.
Wow.
Over Memorial Day weekend.
Is that a good one?
It's a great race because they still have the simple race, which is, you know, you go in the morning, the ferry boat takes you over to Coco's, and you swim back. And all you have to do is, like, you can't miss where you're going.
Yeah, right,
Because you
right,
look
right.
at the, like, tallest mountain on the planet,
Right, yeah.
And you just swim straight for it.
For it.
You know, the real athletes, they're out there are doing the 3,000, or they're
Yeah.
out there going back and forth. And
Yeah.
but I'm just going to
Are you moderate that way, or are you like high level, or what are you?
I never missed
Are you
yet.
intense? Are you are you competitive?
I am not competitive in the swimming pool. I like to swim for fitness.
Okay.
And you know, I've never been a competitor, but in college I took a class called Swimming and Conditioning, and I'm really glad I did because it's great fitness,
Yeah.
and it's not hard.
It's
on
low
the joint.
impact,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's not hard on the joints.
Yeah, I always joke about that. Trying to get on the road and run or something like that with a high impact like that. It's like my joke is you have to do WD-40 the next morning just to get your hips moving again. Were you competitive as a child though? I mean, growing up in a house
Oh,
full of
gosh.
what, boys, girls, mixed?
I have an older sister,
Okay, just the two of you.
just the two of us, and I definitely wanted to be where she was.
Where is she?
What I mean is, you know, she went to school, so I wanted
Right.
to go to school.
Okay.
And she was really smart.
Okay.
And so I wanted to be really smart. And like she ran out of math classes to take at her high
my
school.
gosh.
Right? I never ran out of math classes to take, but she like took them all and had to go to junior college. So I always had kind of somebody to follow in their footsteps because.
Does she think that you're kind of a big deal now? Does she think you're smart? And she's like, oh man, that's my sister.
She's really supportive. I will say
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. So there was no competition being two female siblings like that?
I don't think so.
No.
You know, we're, you probably wouldn't believe this, but we're both kind of bookish, and we'd, you know, rather kind of sit on the couch and read our little books and have our inner life. And
So are you a private person, you think? It's hard to be private in your job, but when you are private, you are private.
that's true. That's true.
You would prefer to stay home with a book than
Yeah.
it would be to go hang out with the guys in the front yard.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's true. I like the things that kind of restore me.
Yeah.
And so I expend a lot of energy because I'm traveling all the time and I'm meeting with people all the time.
So when you have your downtime,
Yeah.
that's all for you. Were your parents like that? What were your parents like?
So my father was, because he's a musician.
Oh,
Yeah, I played the piano, and they met kind of late, my folks, and they got married in their late 20s and had their kids in their mid-30s.
Wow.
And he was just getting started as kind of an easy listening piano bar guy, and he had a partner.
you know, that's so underrated these days.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The piano bar?
Yeah.
I would be down for a piano bar where somebody's just playing you tunes and you don't have to dance or anything. But anyway,
It's
so he
you know,
that was
it's kind of risky because when you take on a family responsibility and then you try to support a family as a musician, a local musician.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a little bit it's risky because venues change their entertainment frequently, and so you're always kind of striving.
gigging and on the road.
That's right. That's right. But he was not an on-the-road guy. He had done all of his on-the-road stuff before he married.
Oh.
My mom was more sort of outgoing, vivacious, wanted to be involved in things.
Yeah.
But she was, I think she grew up in a period of time where opportunity was not that available. And so she was more of a homemaker than she was out in the workforce.
Oh, well, and those days are gone, kind of, right?
Yeah.
Those days are kind of gone. I was asking you a question a little while ago. I was talking about the other day that the way to change a civilization is to stop doing cursive, and to stop writing cursive, where kids are forced to like actually write things and take away a smart device. You could change an entire child's the generation. But we grew up probably in a day where we had to take typing class.
Yes.
Did you grow up in that same time?
My mother tried to get me to take typing, and she made me enroll in it during a summer school
Yeah.
because she was adamant we were going to take summer school every summer.
Yeah.
If there was an education opportunity,
Yeah.
we were going to be there. And so
Typing was one summer.
I dropped out of typing.
Oh, gosh.
I have to tell you, because I told her that when I grow up, I will have a secretary.
Oh my, well, and she does. And you called it.
All the time.
Now you type. Well, no, who knew that we needed to know what the QWERTY pad was back in the day? I mean, they don't take. You know, they're also trying to take out cursive from the schools.
Wow.
Did you take cursive?
I
you
did.
penmanship in cursive?
Yes, I did.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we'll never know this civilization if we run out of power because nobody is writing anything down anymore. So we were laughing that I said what was the quick fox?
I said quick brown fox.
Yeah, and I said
all good men.
All good men come to the aid of their country.
Yes.
That was what you had to use, and yours was
The quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog.
See, that's the problem. I bet you there are a whole generation that don't even know what that means.
Yeah.
But those are. Did you take home ec? Did they
I
have
did.
it? You did.
Yep, absolutely.
Did you learn? What was it like?
I wish I had taken, because we had home ec and shop. I wish I had taken both.
Yeah, yeah.
And I did have some friends that took both. I
Yeah.
mean, because in this day and age, when you're out on your own, it really would help if you know how to, change the oil and
Learn how to, wash dishes.
change the plumbing inside the toilet.
Yeah.
But that is a skill that I wish that I had learned early on.
Well, you'll never know that because you're always going to have somebody washing your dishes. No, not necessarily.
No, not necessarily.
Your husband doesn't wash the
in fact,
dishes.
I inherited my parents' house. Now they're gone, and we had to install a dishwasher
Oh my.
for the tenant.
Oh my. Did you do it?
We did. We installed a dishwasher, but there were 2 dishwashers in that house. Jordana and Shoshana.
Oh yeah, that's where we were. I used to be envious. I grew up in a military family, so all my life, all my neighbors, all their kids, they had chores that they got paid for.
Yeah.
My mother had 5 kids. My dad was in the Air Force, so it wasn't like a huge salary. You know what I mean, with 5 children. But we never got money for our work. We just got the praise of our parents at the end of the day, which would have helped to buy new roller skates. But we never got allowance. Did you get allowance?
We did get a small allowance, but we had to do chores to get it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you had to work hard to get it. Well, I tell you, you have to be one of the hardest working women on Guam for sure.
Well, thank you for that, but
Yeah.
I look around and I see people working, and not only working in their day job, but working for the community. And Guam is a place that strikes me as having some of the most involved members of the community, because if you don't do it, no one else is going to come and do it, right? That's what's so wonderful and beautiful about an island community, is a real sense that if something needs to be done, somebody here is going to have to do it. And so I see a lot of groups that organize, and I try to participate when I can. And we have a sister village program, and some of our commands come out and volunteer. And it's very rewarding for us to feel like we're part of the community and to meet people in the community and to see how life really is on Guam, not just life, say, living on the ship or living in a barracks.
Right.
But I think here it's, the takeaway from having lived in Guam twice now is a takeaway of just how important it is to be connected to the community and connected within your own family.
Yeah. And she likes cutting pico. So, I mean, what could be wrong? I appreciate you coming. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed that. And thank you so much for joining us here on Something to Talk About. We'll see you next time.